My patience for the fallout of Aliens Colonial Marines is wearing extremely, extremely thin. Um, Jim Sterling posted a new article. I've read it. I also reread the Reddit article about the whole issue here, and some things seem to match up. Now, Jim is making a lot of caveats because apparently a lot of people inside the industry seem to be getting really pissed off at Jim. Especially, I would imagine, because he's now coined a phrase that people are starting to use, which is called pulling a gearbox, which has meant that it's showing somebody a product, telling them to their face that this is the product that they will get when it ships. And then at the end of the day, when the product is actually released, at the end of the actual development, it's nothing like the product and is actually quite terrible. In fact, it's caused such shockwaves. Whether you believe that Gearbox has a issue with all of this or not, Gearbox, uh, you know, really sold us a dog and pony show, and then they didn't deliver, which has now made a lot of us who've been paying attention, a lot of us who couldn't just simply ignore the flaws of Aliens Colonial Marines, and really start to be critical, even more so in my case, of the gaming industry. Because I don't appreciate being lied to. Yes, you can claim it's entertainment, and in my case, I only rented the game, I didn't buy it, and I'm sure as hell glad I didn't. What I did like seeing, though, was the score of around 9 point something on Gamefly's user ratings whittle its way slowly down to 4.9 as people couldn't continue to troll the comments or to try to defend the product any more than they could. The overwhelming consensus that this game is, for the most part, crap, outside of maybe some saving graces in the multiplayer, but that's completely subjective, to be honest with you. I don't like it. And I kind of made a joke because it really did not look like a lot of work went into Dwayne Hicks's character model. He looked plastic, and he didn't look like he blinked. And he's like the hentai, what is it? The hentai Woody action figure for some people. That's what Hicks is for me. I expect to see him coming out from underneath my bed, or I expect to open my eyes in the morning and wake up with his soulless, dead face looking at me. Because that was definitely not good animation. That it was a good modeling. I like the scar effects on Hicks, but I'm getting off on a rant because the thing is, we've got two insiders. Now, it's debatable how credible they are, and obviously by breaking with their agreements here, they can't show us the smoking guns enough. And I really wish one of them would say, you know what? I may not work in this industry again. Hopefully somebody not with a family, obviously, who would just say, here's these documents that I was saving while Rome was burning, okay? Because somebody knows something concrete somewhere. And what pisses me off is we have two sources from two separate development teams saying about the same thing. That despite the dog and pony show about how much, say, Gearbox was jazzed to do this project, how they were so pumped to get this story rolling, that they had the definitive way to follow up Aliens, the very thing that Aliens fans like me have been waiting for. And trust me, I'll have another video at some point on my retrospective of Aliens 3 and 4, because some of my opinions have changed. I recently went back and rewatched them, but some of my opinions are largely unchanged, and I still have a lot of problems with it. But I want to also present a lot of information that I wasn't aware of as far as the production of both of those films. But I digress. The point is, I wanted maybe not more of the same, but I wanted a continuation. You can't go from suspense horror to suspense horror slash action. I know people keep saying that Aliens is purely an action film, but it's not. It had elements of horror to it, and I honestly, for most of my life, was actually afraid of that movie. I'm not joking. And now it's my favorite movie, one of my favorite movies of all time. You can't follow that up by going into Alien 3. You can't. And the more that I know about the production, as well as the more that I've read a lot of the comics and reread a lot of the comics, the more I'm still angry about the way they approached it. They could have taken the guns away as Sigourney Weaver wanted for Alien 3 and still had a dynamite story that could still follow the path of the theme of Alien being, of the Alien franchise being loss. Something that really kind of gets lost, no pun intended, in translation with Prometheus. And someday I'm going to really get into Prometheus because I have so many friends who love it and I don't. But again, after giving us all of this talk, that they had all of this background information, all of these special areas that could have been in the movie Aliens but were never officially there, all the production, photos of production models and unused scenery and unused concepts and on and on and on. After all of that, what this seems to be is Gearbox really didn't want to work on this game. Gearbox tried to do everything they can to get the money that they could from Sega, and a lot of that money. Again, I cannot substantiate this, but we have at least one person who seems to be an inside person saying that Gearbox basically lied their ass off to Sega to get more money for things like Borderlands 2. If this is true, then I was actually planning on getting Borderlands 2, but not anymore. Fuck that noise. I am not going to support Gearbox embezzling Sega's money. Not that Sega is innocent in this or Timegate is innocent in this. As detailed in the article below, each party has its own fault in this clusterfuck of a game. This clusterfuck of a mess that came out of such a promising project. And to think that if it is true that Gearbox really, really didn't want to work on this game, then that makes every one of those little video docs about the development diary of Aliens Colonial Marines a flat-out, bald-faced lie to all of our gamer faces. And that is not, I repeat, if it is true, that is not something that should be supported with donations via buying the game firsthand. I may pick it up someday secondhand, but you know what I'm not going to do? If any of this is true, I'm not buying the DLC because this is DLC made by people who lied to our faces that they were so happy to work on this project, that this was a dream project, that this was a project that fans will talk about for the ages. Well, they were right about one thing. We are definitely talking about this project for the ages, but it's not out of admiration. It's out of what happened? You had all of the tools to make a phenomenal game. And even with the twist that people sometimes complain about with the whole Hicks thing, you had such an angle to go to. And if either of these links are to be believed, Fox had signed off, 20th Century Fox had signed off on a story that was not delivered to us. This goes beyond just simply what Gearbox has, people at times have been hinting at from Gearbox, though Gearbox themselves only having time for praise of this piece of crap game. was that they got a whole horrible mess of a game that TimeGate had just completely gutted from the gameplay demo, although I put demo because everything I know from Jim Sterling is that was a rehearsed video footage that nobody was actually playing the game because the game was not there to be played. But that all the elements that made that little playthrough so spectacular, that was just like the movie and would invoke the same kind of fear just like the movie and had fluent animations that weren't creepy, that TimeGate had just gutted that, and by the time that Gearbox got the product back, it was in such horrible state that they did what they could with it. I'm not willing to give Gearbox or Randy, the CEO of Gearbox, any more leeway. I'm sick of the lies, guys. I'm sick of the bull crap. You promised us, you looked us virtually in the eyes, and you lied to each and every one of our faces in conventions, showing off this gameplay. You were lying to our faces. You were doing everything you could because this was the project that for whatever that you were only involved with because you wanted more money. You wanted money for your own projects. Is at least what I'm starting to gather here. And the only reason why Sega cannot legally, if this is true, if you were embezzling, the only reason Sega can't legally sue your asses in court is because you shipped a game, which apparently fulfilled all of the obligations of the contract and makes anything that you did during it, you've got practical immunity. And that's disgusting. Again, if it's true. So I'll keep an eye out to see if anything comes out of Gearbox, because if this doesn't get Gearbox in gear, pardon the pun there, to tell us what's going on here, I have zero faith in Gearbox anymore, and I'm not going to buy their products, at least not firsthand, if I choose to buy them at all, because this disgusts me. This is a whole new level of slime, even for the game industry that I started speaking out against for reasons of business practices gone awry. And again, I'll probably try to do my series or finish my series so people understand my talking points, what evidence I have, and where I'm coming from. Because I would say, though, that everything I've researched has not been this slimy. If this is true, this would be the cream of the crop. It would also shatter, I think, what little resolve some of you have out there that you're holding on to, that the gaming industry, or at the very least that Gearbox, was on the up and up with this project, which so many bits of information are saying is simply not true. They cared more about Borderlands than they ever cared about Aliens, and that's disgusting if it's true, because they lied to us. They out and out lied to us.